My name is Andre, I'm about kicking assignments out, I'm about taking names, and we're about making videos. That's how the famous quote goes, right, guys? I think that's how it
It's close enough. Yeah. Reggie said it better.
Spoilers, Derek. So Reggie just announced, or Nintendo just announced, that Reggie is retiring as president of Nintendo of America, and taking his place is Doug Bowser. So this is a pretty big surprise. I don't think any of us saw this coming, especially with Reggie being quite young. I believe 57. Isn't that right, Derek? So
somewhere around there. Like he's
somewhere around there, late 50s.
He's late 50s, early 60s. He is not old.
No, he's not. This is super surprising news. I don't think this is something anyone saw coming. This was on anyone's radar. So I thought it'd be fun for us to get together, talk about, just talk about our memories of Reggie in general, talk about what it means for Nintendo of America, and just whatever else we want to talk about. So before we get into the meat of the discussion, let's just give a quick history lesson about Reggie's time at NOA. So he started back in 2003, although most of us weren't too familiar with him until the famous moment at E3 of June 2004, where we opened up Nintendo's press conference with the quote I butchered at the start of this, being, "My name is Reggie, I'm about kicking ass, I'm about taking names, and we're about making games." So he instantly made a name for himself, coming out as basically the new face of Nintendo, at least for the American side, and his words resonated around the industry. Now, a few years later, in May 2006, he was promoted to President of Nintendo of America, which is the role he's remained in to this day. Now, interestingly, I've seen a lot of people mistake him over the years for the EIC of Nintendo of America, which isn't the case. He's right below that as President, but he definitely has been the face of Nintendo of America, as I just said. And before Nintendo of America, he had worked at previously companies like VH1, as well as Pizza Hut, and numerous others. So this guy's been getting around. So, anyways, yeah, I guess that's the history lesson in a nutshell, and then we'll have more to talk about, and then we'll have more to say about Doug Bowser later on, I'm sure. But what do you guys think about this? Like, what's your raw reaction to Reggie retiring, to hearing this news for the first time?
My body was not ready for this news. It feels like Reggie's been with Nintendo for such a long time now. I guess he has. It's been like 16 years at this point. A lot of people grew up with this guy. It feels like he kind of embodies Nintendo at this point. When I think about like their faces, it's always like Miyamoto, Reggie, and I guess at this point those are the key figures. So to lose Reggie is it's like an end of an era at this point.
Right, because he's been there for almost half of my lifespan and more than half of yours, John.
Yeah.
So that's wild. And I was actually there at the E3 where he came out on stage, and I still remember being in the audience, hearing him say these words, and I'm like, damn, this feels like a different Nintendo right now. So
yeah, that was the big thing. Is like that. I remember seeing all the articles for a while of everybody talking about Reggie's entrance, because it's like, geez, what's gotten into Nintendo? They're so family friendly, and here's this guy saying he's ready to kick ass. Like, what's going on here? And he really just wormed his way into a lot of Nintendo fans' hearts because of how frank he was, how kind he was. He always had this just very warm personality to him that I think a lot of people took to. He was willing to be silly, as many Nintendo Directs proved, and he just became this sort of great figure that they could look to, along with all the other Japanese executives like Iwata, like Miyamoto, that just like, man, these guys are kind of cool. They're goofy, but still kind of cool and heartwarming in that way. It's been fun to see him just have fun with that role. And I mean, you kind of glazed over his previous work there, but that's the thing with Reggie, is that he, from all the research we did before this, basically everywhere he went, he was successful. Like, he raised up VH1's profits, Pizza Hut did well, and he just moved from place to place, just gradually helping him out until I guess he finally settled on Nintendo. And being a gamer for a long time, it kind of makes sense that he would stick around for that long at this place.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he's been a success pretty much wherever he's gone, including at Nintendo, with a little asterisk there, because it's interesting to look at, the eras he's presided over, where he basically began at the start of the Nintendo DS and subsequently the Wii era, which of course is a very high point in Nintendo's history. Then that kind of cratered when we entered the Wii U generation, but now with the Switch is of course on a huge upswing again. So it's really interesting to see how he's had like a reverse bell curve almost in terms of Nintendo's performance as he's been there, and it's great to see him kind of like leaving on a, he's seemingly leaving on a high note right now. With Nintendo basically selling record amounts of hardware. And also, as you were also kind of touching on, Derek, with, you know, in terms of his personality, one thing that can't really be understated is how charismatic he was, especially for the time. I think before him, we often had Howard Lincoln on stage, and Howard Lincoln was, you know, was also engaging in his own way, but Reggie came out like a powerhouse. Like, he commanded your attention. Like, as the face of Nintendo, like, he basically looked like a linebacker out on stage. And he did an amazing job at presenting Nintendo at the time as, you know, both targeting hardcore gamers with their existing GameCube lineup, while also, like, targeting a new audience, too, with the Nintendo DS. And it's really fun to see in retrospect, too, where you have, like, this giant linebacker-like guy basically screaming at the audience as he presents this new era of Nintendo, which is targeting, you know, everyone, being, like, moms and, you know, parents in general, and, kids, people of all ages. It's just kind of funny in hindsight to see how that began with Reggie and how well that's worked out for them.
I think we kind of underappreciate how much these guys do as their job. Because Reggie's job is to run Nintendo of America, but at the same time he's also hosting all of these events and these press conferences. And we see like Furukawa and Kimishima. Those guys generally don't host their own events. They usually, like, they get Koizumi to do directs rather than themselves. So for Reggie to just go out there, do his own job, and also host this global event every year, it's just kind of a huge deal. And not all presidents do that. And as you were saying, like, he stuck with the Wii U during its slump. Whereas with Xbox, their president left during the slump, and Phil Spencer stepped in like midway through the Xbox generation. So for Reggie to stay with Nintendo during their darkest days just kind of shows what kind of character he had.
Right, yeah, he could just bounced. He's like, I'm out, guys. Right. I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. You could really feel his passion, and like the thing is, everything about him is memorable. His look, his even his speech patterns, because he has a very particular way of presenting his information. It's clear, it's concise, it's done in chunks, so each section you really grasp onto and understand. You know, some could look at it as being talked down to, but it really wasn't that. He's just presenting information as clearly as he could, and I think that's a part of the reason he pulled people in so well.
There's so many memorable quotes as well, like when he just says, like, if you don't have a new 3DS, what's wrong with you? Or, I gotta go now. I gotta get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Like, there's so many memorable things that Reggie said over the years. And he was kind of a meme at some points, but he embraced that. Like, in the video they posted on Twitter, he said about how, the community made him the Reginator, and he just kind of, he took that upon himself, and he became this he was like one with the community at the same time. He never felt mocked, he just kind of embraced all of this.
I mean, to the point where Mega 64 designed a sketch for him to announce Nintendo's E3 plans a few years ago, and he straight up was the Reginator in that. And yeah, it kind of speaks to the point of, you know, Nintendo's obviously a family-friendly company. They're an entertainment company, so it is fun to see them like fully embrace that, even at the executive level, where they do seem to be having a fun time with their job, or at least presenting it that way, where they're not afraid of taking a goofier direction, which I think probably came to a head. Perhaps actually during the Wii U era, where we saw some weird stuff from them. I think I remember where they're showing off the Wii U's gamepad calling ability, the FaceTime thing they had, and I think Iwata and Reggie were drawing bananas on each other's faces for some reason. I could be misremembering a little bit, but
I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, you said the Mega 64 bit, we had the Robot Chicken bit, we had him as a puppet, we had him doing an actual fight against Iwata.
For Smash Brothers, that's right.
Yeah, for Smash. Like, there was always something he was totally game to just go along with.
Well, being game is part of the job, Derek.
Well, there you go.
As opposed to that, he retired before Mother fans got Mother 3 as well. He'd rather retire than give them that game.
So it still hasn't fully processed that, moving forward beyond April, which is, I believe April 15th is his last official day, Reggie will be no more at Nintendo, and it's going to be weird entering that new era where we don't have them as the face of Nintendo during, Nintendo Directs or at E3. We're not going to have those interviews. We're not going to have the Jeff Keighley competitions with them anymore in Wii Sports, whatever game they're playing. Reggie did a great job talking, or speaking of why Doug Bowser is a suitable replacement for him as president of Nintendo of America, and I'm absolutely sure that's the case. But regardless, it's going to be a very different personality, one of which I don't think we've seen a whole lot of. And I think, I am just curious to see, what that means for how Nintendo presents themselves moving forward. Are we going to continue to see that goofy side of Nintendo, or might they veer toward something a little bit more matter of fact. You know, we've already seen like an evolution of Nintendo Directs format. Yeah, so I'm just kind of thinking, what does this mean more long term for Nintendo?
I have a feeling they're going to stick with the same sort of silliness, maybe not quite to the same degree as Reggie, until, Doug Bowser finds his footing about what he's all about and what the community thinks of him, and it sort of lean one way or another based off that. But, I mean, the first time he was introduced as taking that role, he did have Mario and Luigi plush dolls tied up behind him with a GameCube controller. So there is a sense of fun with Doug Bowser, and I've seen him at a few events. He seems like a really nice guy, so I'm not really that worried about it. Yeah, you're not gonna have the meme-worthy stuff right away, but I think Doug Bowser will find his footing and get himself out there.
I mean, I think the memes are what kept Nintendo afloat during the Wii U era. That's the one thing that kept them relevant.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Nintendo's direction has changed as well, because as of recently, Reggie's not really been in directs. He was in the E3 presentation, but most directs are mostly done by NCL employees. Like we see like Koizumi and other Japanese correspondents rather than any American personalities. So I do wonder, like, we haven't really seen Reggie a whole lot recently. I think the last time we saw him was E3, and I can't even think of the last time before that. Maybe the E3 before that? So even if they do try and keep the same method they use for Reggie, I do wonder if it's going to be any different to what we have right now.
It's true. I mean, it could just be part of a natural evolution that they've been working toward for a while. Who knows how long they've been planning behind the scenes for this, or that's even been a factor in regards to this. But it would make sense, like, if you know your president is going to be retiring at some point, it makes sense to kind of wind down their public presence and start working toward, I guess, diversifying perhaps who is presenting, as they seem to be for the Nintendo Directs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's just people come and go from companies all the time. Reggie's been there, for as long as he has been. It's not a surprise that he was going to leave at some point. It's just a little surprising that's this soon. Mm-hmm. So,
and it's not like he's leaving to go to another company as well. He is just retiring, so that's notable in itself.
It is. That's true. Good point. And I guess, too, to comment on something you were talking about earlier, Derek, something I wanted to bring up earlier was when you were talking about his success at all these companies, including Nintendo. I was reminded of when I worked at Nintendo myself back in 2006, so still pretty early into Reggie's 2005 to 2006, so quite early into Reggie's presidency. I just remember there being a very, like, a general, very positive vibe around. Like, I remember my lead specifically, like, praising Reggie at one point. I think it was shortly after, like, the Christmas party, where she was just, like, elated with the new leadership they had, or with his leadership specifically. And it was awesome to see that, to see, like, someone who seemingly engaged the employees of the company, and was inspiring them. Like, I could see that even within my work group with people who were inspired by Reggie's presence and wanted to make Nintendo the best company they could, because that's what Reggie wanted to do. He wanted to make Nintendo the strongest possible entity they can, within their ability to, being a subsidiary of NCL. So, but yeah, I was just reminded that it was kind of cool to that I was to remember to be reminded of those memories of my time there and how just positive it seemed in general.
Plus, Reggie says his favorite game is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, so that is a man I can respect.
He knows what's up, exactly. The undisputed, objectively best game of all time. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up here? Anything else you want to get out there before we move on?
I just think it's hilarious that the new president's going to be called Bowser. Like,
that is so fitting,
Mario
right?
games canceled forever.
I love, too, how it gave us the perfect thumbnail, by the way, for the video announcing his retirement, where we took the, when he announced the 3DS, Bowser pops out of the 3DS and does a roast Reggie in the face. Is there really anything more fitting than for Reggie's retirement?
Taken down by Bowser.
Yep. So yeah, that was pretty funny. I'm sure that will play some role in future Nintendo Directs.
Oh, no doubt, yeah.
Bowser's the new face of Nintendo. I'm okay with this.
Alright, anything else, guys, or is that about it?
It's gonna be weird, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the weird thing is, like, at the end of the day, not much is going to change in terms of the games we play. Like, nothing's going to change in that respect. It's just more about how Nintendo presents itself to the world, right? So, yeah, it will be interesting to see moving forward what exactly that role takes. We've already seen something of this before, with of course, with Iwata's passing, how he had he was also a major face to Nintendo, and so far they've been able to continue just fine without them. It'll just be interesting to see how Nintendo adapts and changes to this. So, well, with that, I think we're about done here. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to those in the description below, which is a good way to keep up to date on everything we post. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for tons more on everything Nintendo. I was gonna say Reggie, but probably not too much more on him specifically. Definitely Bowser though, and everything else Nintendo as well, including, yes, I am in fact making a Super Mario Maker 2 analysis. It's big, so stay tuned for that as soon as I finish it, whenever that may be. And we'll catch you later. Bye.